Hi, friends. Let's learn about time. So, as you can see, we are starting our new unit on time, and today we're going to do a review of what you learned in first grade. So, in first grade, you learned all about an analog clock. There's a difference between the two major clocks that I would say we see. We see analog clocks a lot, and we see digital clocks a lot. Analog clocks look like this. They're usually circular, although they don't have to be circular. The main ones that we see are definitely circular. And they have numbers going all the way around the circle. Sometimes those numbers are Roman numerals, which you can see right here. Roman numerals are just another way of writing the numbers. We don't use them a lot here, but they're a very fancy way of writing the numbers. So you can see regular numbers, you can see Roman numerals, or some clocks don't even have any numbers on them at all. And we just kind of remember where the numbers are after using an analog clock for so long. So these are more decorative. But the ones that you'll see in our schools, in our libraries, in our kitchens sometimes, are definitely the ones that have the numbers going all the way around. And I like to wear a watch that has the numbers going all the way around because I never want to get the time wrong. A lot of people nowadays, though, rely on digital clocks. I have a picture here of an iPhone. Your phones that your parents use have a digital clock right on the screen. So they're looking at the digital clock when they tell time a lot of the time on their phones. This says 12:39. There's also a lot of digital clocks that you might have in your house. I have one right here on my computer. It's a digital clock. It's not an analog clock. So a lot of the time with technology things, you might see the digital clock. But the analog clock is the one with the numbers that go around. So let's look at the show you a little bit more about the analog clock because it's the one it's a little bit harder to tell the time on, but it's what we had before digital clocks. So when you look at the small hand on the face of an analog clock, we call the analog clock, the front of it, the face. When you look at the smaller hand, which is in orange right here, we call that the hour hand. It's in red on this example, the hour hand. It's smaller. It's called the hour hand, and to tell the hour, you look at the last number that the hour hand just passed, and you say that number, and that's the hour that you're in. So for example, right now, I am at the start of a new hour, and I see my hour hand is precisely on the 9. Now, if my minute hand was to move a little bit, let's say to be on the 6, my hour hand moves as well. As the minute hand moves, the hour hand also moves. It's getting ready to go to the next hour, which would be 10 o'clock. But to tell the time, the hour that you're in, you look at the hour hand and you see the number that it just passed, and that's the hour that you're in. So we see that the 9 is in between the 9, or the hour hand is in between the 9 and the 10. It just passed the 9. We're in the 9 o'clock hour, and then we look to our minute hand and tell the minutes. You can also see it in the digital clock over to the right. But you look at where the hour hand just passed. It might not always be right on that 9 to tell you it's 9:30, but it might be just past it. Okay, so I really want you to know that as the hour hand moves, the minute hand moves. As the minute hand moves, the hour hand moves. They're both moving. Okay. Step 2, after you have the hour that you're within, then you look at your minute hand. We can see on this bigger clock, there are these little tiny lines. Now the big numbers represent the hours, but the little tiny lines represent the minutes. If you were to count up all those little tiny lines around the clock, it would be 60. There are 60 seconds in a minute. So the second hand moves one full rotation to get from 1 minute to the next minute. And there are 60 minutes in an hour, which means that if I'm at 9 o'clock, my minute hand has to travel 60 full minutes, 60 full little ticks to get from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Okay, I'm gonna go back in time. Whoa, cool. So if I know there are 60 full minutes in an hour, then we can also look at this visual over here, which you learned in first grade. We can think of a full hour like a cookie. So here's my clock, and here's my cookie. Now there are 60 full minutes in an hour. What's half of 60? What's half of 60? Well, we can say 30 plus 30 equals 60. So halfway through the hour would be if the minute hand was at the 6 or the 30, showing that 30 minutes have passed. So in first grade, you learned about starting the new hour, which is when the minute hand is on the 12, as seen here. And you also learned about when the minute hand goes halfway through the hour, which would be on the 6, showing that 30 minutes have passed. So when the minute hand is on the 12, it's showing it's the start of a new hour, 9 o'clock. And when the minute hand moves halfway, you eat half that cookie, it's showing 30 minutes have passed. So it would be 9:30. Okay, my friends, we're going to practice this now in some guided practice examples. So I am going to draw the clocks in these examples. I'm going to use two different colors. I'm going to use blue for my hour hand and this pink color for my minute hand. I know the hour hand is smaller. To show 4 o'clock, I know my minute hand is going to be on the 12. It's going to be bigger. Start of a new hour. Something that's the same about all of these is that it's the start of a new hour in all of them. So I can actually put my minute hand, something they all have in common. My minute hand can go on the 12, 0, new hour. Okay. The only thing that's going to be different in these examples is my hour hand. I'm going to make my tiny hour hand in the first example pointing right on the 4 because it's 4 o'clock. I'm going to make my minute hand point at the 12 and the hour hand point at the 6 for the next example to show 6 o'clock. And the last example, my minute hand is pointing to the 12, new hour, and my hour hand is going to point at the 8, showing 8 o'clock. All right, friends. Next, I see the clocks here that are done for me, and I am going to write in what time it is digitally. They give me the analog clock, and I'm going to write in the digital time. Now, remember, when you are trying to tell what time it is, you first look at your hour hand, and you see which number the hour hand just passed. So I see that we're in between the 7 and the 8. It just passed the 7, so we're going to be in the 7 o'clock time. And I know that when half that cookie is eaten, it's showing me 30 minutes have gone by, 30 little tick marks in between. Okay, 30 have gone by, 30 to go. I have 30 minutes of my cookie. I don't have the full cookie yet, which would be 60 minutes. So I know when my minute hand is on the 6, it's showing 30 minutes have gone by. Let's try another example of writing it in. I see my minute hand is in between the 4 and the 5. We look at, my hour hand is in between the 4 and the 5. We look at which hour the hour hand just passed. And it's just past the 4. It's not on the 5 yet. It's just past the 4. We look at where it's in between, and it just passed the 4. So it is in the 4 o'clock hour. And I know, I have it memorized, when the minute hand is on the 6, halfway with that cookie image, 30 minutes have passed.